What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about 3 wide receiver tips to beat a talented DB. So these are the things that you guys got to be able to bring to your game, to bring to the field, to beat a DB who is talented, who has been well coached, and knows what he's doing out there. I'm not trying to prepare you guys for a DB who doesn't know what he's doing. I'm trying to prepare you guys for a DB who is talented, has good technique, and is looking for the specific things that we do wrong to apply to his game. So I hope this video gives you some value, teaches you a couple new things, but also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you're not necessarily sure what drills to do, what workouts to do on the field, those sets, the reps that you guys need to be able to do, check out that very first link in the description, fellas, for a 28-day on-field wide receiver workout plan. So what it is, a 4-week program with every single day mapped out for you, specific names of exercises, sets and reps, rest periods, and then we give you a 30-minute long instructional video where we break down each drill, and then we talk about why the drill is important, and then we show you a full speed example of the drill. So I hope you guys could check that out. Very first link in the description. Let's get started. So first things first I want to talk about is to not force things against a talented DB. So it's watch full speed. This is an inside release on an outside breaking route. So you see this receiver doesn't have the outside release on an out route, but we're still able to create some separation, still able to make this play, right? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about why that works. So when a DB is outside shade, what does that usually mean, right? And again, this is one-on-ones, but it's better to highlight it from this example because it's a good camera angle. So he's outside shade. So what situation are they working? They're working a situation where a DB has safety help to the inside. So when he's outside shade, he wants me to run inside because he's got help there. Same thing if he were to be inside shade, the help is his sideline, so he wants me to run to the sideline so he could force me to his help, right? So as a receiver, I can't force this. So a lot of people think that when I go up, and this is what kills guys against talented DBs, a defensive coordinator will make their guys line up outside shade when they're getting beat to the outside over and over and over again, especially if you see that on film, right? So if you guys are a team that runs a lot of out routes, comebacks, corners, and you guys dice up a lot of teams, be prepared to see this coverage against a talented team, right? So he's outside shade. He doesn't obviously want me to go outside. Now, what a lot of young receivers will do is they'll force the outside release because they think, oh, I'm running an out route, I must take an outside release. That's not necessarily the case, right? When you have an outside shade DB, you got to trust yourself at the top of the route. So when this receiver comes off the line, this release kind of gathers some info, right? Anytime this DB's in a catch technique, kind of a bail technique, we always want to close the distance. We want to try to step on his toes, but also it helps us read this DB. It also helps us get a feel for what he's trying to do. So we close the distance. We're getting a read on him. You see he's keeping his shade to the outside. Fine. I'm going to take the inside release. I got a plan for that at the top of the route. So when I burst to the inside, I know my plan is going to be one of two things. If he was maybe a little bit closer, like in press, I would try to work to restack, or I would try to work to get him hip to hip so I could throw by. Same case when he's off and we got a little bit of a cushion like this, I still want to do the same thing. I want to push to the inside. I want to sell vertical. How I sell vertical is 3 key things, fellas. You want to stay in stride, good body language, and your eyes want to stay straight forward. If you can have those 3 things, that makes a DB think vertical. That makes a DB think, okay, he's running a fade. I got to commit to this thing. I don't want to get beat downfield because it still is man coverage even if he is outside shade. So I got to get him to be here and to commit his hips, because if I get him to commit his hips without him having any hands on me, I can create some separation. Now, the icing on the cake, right? We all love to talk about the sudden break, right? You want to break in stride. We've covered that before in past videos. But when you break on a dime like this, it's not about just being able to break on a dime. Yes, you'll create separation up here, but you keep separation with what you do after the break. And what I mean by after the break is the acceleration phase. So this DB, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to be speed turning, right? Because that's his technique. That's faster than having this slow open up. So when I go here, my mindset has got to be, it is a race to the ball. No matter what break you do, let's say you're running a deep post, let's say you're running a comeback, whatever it is, after this break point right here, it is a race to get to this spot. Just like how on this out route, because I know this DB is going to be speed turning, he's going to be fast. It is a race to this spot. So when you have an outside shade DB, don't force it outside, right? Know that you could take an inside release, trust yourself at the top of the route, and you got to make sure that you accelerate. If you guys can do all 3 of those things, if you guys can trust yourself at the top of the break and trust that acceleration out of there, you guys will be able to beat a talented DB. And that's ultimately the goal, to get you guys ready for a good DB to where you have no indicators on your route and you could create some space. Watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job not forcing it, taking the inside release and accelerating and winning that race back to the ball. Okay, so now, second thing we're going to talk about here, this is a poor example. I mean, not to bag on A.J. Brown. This is just, not his best route. But again, obviously a crazy talented receiver. But this gets A.J. Bouye, who is a very talented DB, right? And so we're going to discuss some of the things that may not work against a DB. And this is the same situation. We have an outside breaking route against the outside shade DB. So let's watch it full speed. We've talked about this a little bit before, but you see how he kind of chops into the break, right? That's not going to get a DB You know what I'm saying? That's not going to get a DB to bite, right? So when I have an outside shade DB, right? And again, he's in a perfect situation to play this, right? But from a quarterback perspective, let's talk about this. If I have a guy who's in off coverage, right? Maybe it's like cover 3, cover 4, kind of depends, right? Kind of depends on the rest of the play concept. And this guy's got a 10-yard out. I'm banking on my receiver making this guy think vertical, and then we could slip back underneath and I could get it off because he's in off coverage. If it were press coverage and he's outside shade like the last clip, I maybe don't necessarily like that look pre-snap unless my guy's a great route runner and I trust him and I know he could get separation and that corner's a scrub, right? So that's how we have to think about it. You got to think of it from a quarterback perspective. I got to be able to create some separation on this route because pre-snap, quarterback loves this. If it's cover 3, quarterback loves this, right? So this receiver, what A.J. Brown does here, at first he's doing the right thing. A lot of people said when I talked about this clip in the past that you want to attack his leverage, right? But when you got outside shade on an outside breaking route, if you attack his leverage, he's going to do what he's coached to do. He's going to keep his leverage. So you're going to end up running right into him. Easy play for him. You got to attack this inside shoulder. You got to force him to think vertical so you could slip back underneath and create some kind of separation so you can accelerate, right? But now the mistake A.J. Brown makes right here is when he bursts up is he's doing the right things. The stem is correct. Everything's correct about where he's going. It's just these choppy steps right here. When you guys slow down before a break and you have that indicator that you're going to be making a break, what's the DB going to do? The DB slowed down. He is not threatened at all vertical in this situation. If I could threaten him vertical and really make him think fade, I could have a chance to slip back underneath, right? But because we kind of chop my feet there and we make this kind of slow break where I don't really sell anything and I'm slow out of there with my feet, this DB is able to break on this and make a good play on this route. So as a receiver, what we have to focus on doing is we got to focus on making everything look like a fade. Against those talented DBs, fellas, they're going to know how to read body language. What DBs do is you ever see them work those drills where they backpedal, then they slowly backpedal, then they backpedal faster, they turn their hips, maybe they slow down, then they break on the ball. Those are the situations they're working. They're banking on us not being crisp at the top of the route, not getting out of the break fast, and slowing down and giving them that indication that I'm making a break, right? So that's what we have to think about as a receiver. How can I make everything look like a fade until bam, on a dime, he knows it's not a fade, but bam, I don't give him enough time to react and I'm already out of this break. We just gave him on this route, we gave him too much time to react. I slowed too much down and that allowed him to make a break on this thing. So against talented DBs, fellas, those little things matter. You're not going to get away with running a lazy route. You're not going to get away with slowing down before you make that break. What you're going to get away with is pushing vertical, making a break on a dime, make the DB think one thing and do another. It's really that simple. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Just make sure, fellas, that yeah, you can do everything right with your stem. You can attack the right part of the DB, but if you let him know where you're going before you do it, the play's over before it started. Let's watch it full speed again. Just make sure we don't slow down, fellas. Got to not slow down. Got to have fast and explosive cuts. So now we're going to kind of build off of that. We're going to look at Jerry Jeudy running this route. And the main thing here is that you got to focus on not giving an indicator with anything that you do. So not just slowing down like we talked about in the past. Watch it full speed. So Jeudy takes a lot of steps at the top of this break. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he's out of this route, right? This is obviously a scramble situation. This is not an actual route. Locke's probably getting out of the pocket. There's probably like a design stop route or curl route. And then he saw Locke escaping, so he rolled with him, right? We're not going to focus too much on that. We're going to focus on this right here, this trigger step. So as a receiver, a lot of people have been taught wrong. A lot of people have been taught that, okay, you want to get out of the break in the least amount of steps possible, right? And I can always tell when a guy has that problem because they'll be running up into a break and they'll raise their chest up, they'll slow down, but the steps are crisp. You're getting out in 3 steps. Some guys even try to get out in 1 step, which is the most unrealistic thing you can do 15 yards downfield. A lot of people misunderstand this. A lot of people misunderstand when I talk about, you want to snap, pivot with your 2nd step, hook with your 3rd step, because they think that, you're trying to teach you to get out in 3 steps like that's not correct. Yeah, no shit, that's not correct. You got to be able to push vertical and drop on a dime rather than worry about steps. So having no indicator into the break is the key to creating a lot of separation. It's not about steps. It's about time. Can I eliminate time and can I sell vertical as long as possible? So how we can do that? Jeudy does such a great job of having no indicators with his pad level, right? So he don't raise that number. I had a question yesterday. How do I know that I have good pad level? When you have this number pointed straight up in the air and if there was a safety ahead of you who could see your full chest, that's how you know you're too high. If you're running too low to where you feel like your stride is restricted, you're too low and you're not going to have a drop. You got to be right in that happy medium, which is exactly where Jeudy is, right? So now Number two, you got to be in good stride. So a DB is going to be able to match your stride. If you guys aren't actually running and you guys aren't actually in full stride, a DB is going to be able to sit on that thing. Kind of similar to the route we just looked at with A.J. Brown. He started chopping his feet. DB starts chopping his feet. He's going to start slowing down as well. So I got to be able to stay in stride with this break. Now, a lot of people say, oh, Judy's just built different. He can just do all these breaks that we can't do. I've seen it, dude. Like if you want to believe that, fine, go for it. You know what I mean? If you want to have that limited way of thinking, go for it. But trust me, I've seen it. And I've seen guys get a ton of separation, not because they eliminate steps, but because they're able to be in stride going into a break and drop their hips. That's really all it comes down to. If I can eliminate, yes, you do want to try to get out in the least amount of steps possible, but you got to make sure that you sell vertical and you got to make sure that you drop in stride. You don't want to slow down because you're so concerned with steps. Because trust me, you slow down, a DB is going to be able to get out in the exact same amount of steps that we are because you have an indicator on the route. So Judy's able to snap in stride, no indicators. He snaps, takes the second step, takes third step, 4, 5. He's out in 5 steps, but you see, because we have no indicator, the DB is going to be taking more steps, right? Let's count how many steps the DB ends up taking. So we break down, DB's taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then he's still off balance, right? Because of how quick we broke down, how much we got him to commit on the fade, and how much time I was able to eliminate at the top of the break. It ain't about steps, fellas. It's about pushing vertical, dropping on a dime to make that DB think that we're going to fade, right? So that's how you beat a talented DB. That's the last tip we're going to talk about today, is you got to have no indicator with your pad level, no indicator with your stride, and don't worry about steps, worry about eliminating time. Let's watch the thing full speed one more time. Great job staying in stride. Great job dropping his hips on a dime and then being able to accelerate out of this route. Perfect route here from Jerry Jeudy. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to leave those in the comments below. I always appreciate the feedback, always appreciate the comments you guys leave. Helps me come up with new ideas. So again, I definitely appreciate it. And also, fellas, 4-week long on-field wide receiver workout plan, all the specific things you need to do on the field to improve your route running, press releases, catching ability, explosion, balance, all the above broken down to a step-by-step plan with an instructional video with all the specific things that you need to worry about. Hope you guys could check that out. Very first link in the description. I'll see you guys next time.